Ainsley, look, Kamala Harris is either financially illiterate or she believes her audience is. This is called come on marketing. The $25,000 credit is a come on. It will not happen. The $6,000 child credit requires you to have 2 kids in the same year. That's a come on. The 4 million homes that she came out with yesterday in 4 years is absolutely impossible in this country. And to control prices is a come on. This is a marketing strategy, a gimmick where there's a promise of an offer that cannot be delivered at scale. It's typically used as a bait and switch, some kind of offer that exaggerates, that has hidden costs, exaggerated claims. And Kamala Harris is the come on queen now. That should be her new title.
What's required for a first-time homeowner? I know you told our producers earlier that it takes a lot more than $25,000.
Yeah, look, $25,000 credits are already being delivered by builders, by the way. So the government doesn't need to do this. The builder is willing to do it today. But even if you could do that, the average loan today is over $400,000. The average cost of a home is $440,000. So even if you gave a credit, the first-time home buyer does not have the down payment. $32,000 on average this year is the down payment, much less the ability to maintain the house, to take care of the insurance, which could be as high as $1,000 a month, the HOA fees, and the property taxes. While she says she'll give $25,000 away, it's like the car dealer that says, look, the payments are going to be $90 a month and no money down, but you get there and you leave with a $500 or $600 payment. It's impossible to deliver, like the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act that delivered nothing to this country. It was $3.2 trillion. That could have built 8 million homes, or it could have provided 48 million black households with $300,000 in cash. But that didn't happen either.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Political Brown Kid here. And the reason why I pulled this clip up, and I want to kind of dive just into this clip just a little bit. But the conversation is going to be a lot deeper. It's going to be about the overall economy as a whole. But this clip kind of summarizes where we're headed at in this country. Now, unfortunately, what a lot of people don't know is that when Joe Biden took office in, 2020, they promised the Inflation Reduction Act, right? They did the Inflation Reduction Act, and that was both him and Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. They got that through. And surprisingly, inflation is up, I think 27% since the Inflation Reduction Act was implemented. This is what people do not understand. Unfortunately, Democrats do not understand how economics works. Again, I just did a video and you can check for it. It may be out by the time I release this one. I don't know the chronological order that I'm going to release my videos, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, probably the worst representative ever. She's a prime example, number one, of wanting to give everybody everything, socialist ideas, but when it comes to giving reparations to blacks, she's not for it. But yet she wants to give everything to everyone. That's the way the Democrat mindset operates. If you notice, even with Kamala Harris, she keeps talking about helping out poor people, poor people, poor people. And y'all already know my stance if you watch my videos. I think that there are a lot of good poor people out there. And right now, I'm not judging whether you're an overall good person, meaning that you have characters and morals, because we know that across all economic platforms, whether you're poor, middle class, or upper class, you're going to have good people in those categories, bad people in those categories. You're going to have people, and I'm talking about just as far as morally, the way you carry yourself throughout the world. I'm not talking about financially responsible. But even when you look at financially responsible, you have a lot of poor people that are financially responsible. But unfortunately, you have more poor people that are not financially responsible, or they didn't know how to chart their course properly. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because of this. When Republicans have the theory of trickle-down theory, give the money to the rich and the money will trickle down, particularly give it to, because the rich are the business class, they're the business owners and so forth, and that money trickles down because those are the individuals that are in positions currently to create more jobs and create more opportunities and hire other individuals. Democrats take the position of let's penalize, let's take money from the rich, let's penalize the rich, give the money to the poor because the poor need help. Now, if you look at yourself, and I just want you to look at your own personal situation and look at the scenario. If you were, let's just say you were a person in your family and you had money to lend out, you had money to give away, and you wanted that money, you wanted to say, I want this money to help out. I want it to stretch for generations to come, and I want it to help out as many family members as possible. Who are you going to give that money to? Are you going to give that money to your family member who's poor, broke, doesn't look for a job, doesn't really know how to do time management, doesn't know how to prioritize, doesn't know how to do strategic planning, long-term, short-term planning, doesn't know anything about investing? They're constantly screwing things up, constantly asking for a handout. You're going to give that money to that individual? Or maybe you have a middle class or upper class individual in your family that's very responsible. They go to school. They probably, they have a good profession. And that profession, it could, when I say a good profession, that person could be a trash collector, AKA sanitation engineer. That person could be an accountant. Person could be a software engineer. Person could just be a teacher. But that person has taken whatever salary that they make, and they were responsible. They invest their money. When you talk to them, they talk about investing. They talk about doing, certain things with their money. It may not be growing at the rate of what Warren Buffett does, but they know how to manage and control money. They're good with planning out their life. They pay their bills, and they just keep their life in order. So if you apply that and then you just extrapolate that up to the federal government level, that's where you can see, well, and if you're like me, you would be siding with the Republicans. You would be saying trickle-down theory is probably more plausible than the trickle-up theory, or the hand-up theory that the Democrats take. But here's the bigger problem that what I'm trying to go at as well is when you look at Kamala Harris, when she starts talking, you can obviously tell that she doesn't know, as Grant Cardone points out in what he's saying, she doesn't understand basic economics. First, she starts talking about giving $25,000 to all, first for all home buyers, but I'm pretty sure that's only for poor home buyers who don't make a certain amount. So for all of us individuals that make $100,000 or more, you're not going to get $25,000. She's not thinking about you because she just said, the Democrats just assume you make $100,000, you're a rich bastard, and you don't need help. That's the way they look at you. When a lot of people that make $100,000 or even $200,000 will tell you $100,000 and $200,000 is nothing. It actually really is nothing, especially if if that's all you have in your household. Now, if you have one person that makes $200,000 and another person that makes $100,000 and your household income is $300,000, you may be on to something. But for a person that makes $200,000, especially if you live in a major city like San Francisco, New York, DC, Boston, Seattle, Washington, Chicago, that money is not anything. But yet, once again, Kamala Harris and them treat you as if you're rich. So the $25,000, they're just going to give that to the poor. And all the poor is going to do is compete with the middle class on houses, and they're just going to create more bidding wars to drive prices up. I'm telling you this. People don't understand how we got to this inflationary point right now, but you have to know economics. A lot of people haven't even read The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, John Adams, whatever the hell his name was. But that was one of the books that you have to read once you go to business school. It was at least required by us to at least read that book. But even getting past that and looking at today's times, this is the point that I want to make. There was an article that just came out today, and I think it said, Raleigh, North Carolina. And Raleigh, North Carolina is a highly educated area with, if you look at the universities that are around in the Research Triangle, and Raleigh includes Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. You have University of North Carolina, you have Duke, you have NC State, you have a lot of universities, and Research Triangle Park is there. There are a lot of well-to-do people that live in that area. But the middle class, I think that is where the middle class is shrinking the most. I think Chicago and Denver also make the list of shrinking middle classes. And if you look nationwide, a lot of the middle class is going away, and people want to know why. Well, the reason why is because what the Democrats have done is they basically said, we're going to take all of the low tier jobs, the people that make minimum wage, and those are people that work primarily like in retail, if you're in fast food, and if you probably, I think, maybe even, I don't know if those Home Depot or, those home improvement stores, but people that work retail, those individuals all got bumps into their minimum wage. I think some of them make as much as $17 an hour. What the Republicans were arguing unsuccessfully, because they passed the minimum wage, and I understand minimum wage needs to increase, definitely with the inflation, but it wouldn't have needed to increase if they had controlled inflation. But it didn't need to increase it as drastically as it did. But here's the problem. Most of those jobs, and this is what Republicans were trying to argue, and I agree with them, most of the jobs that you see at McDonald's and you see at Wendy's and Burger King and all of these fast food places, those jobs were really allocated towards working or entry-level students that go to high school. When they get out of high school, they have a part-time job at those type of places. Now, and then you may have like one or two, I shouldn't say one or two, but one or two on shift. I'm going to say on shift, you would have one or two individuals who were probably college educated or who was just professional, and they were salaried employees. They were managers of the fast food restaurant. They were the managers. They made salary money, and they managed the high schools and or college students. And a lot of times too, those jobs, immigrants that come to this country, those are the first jobs they get as well. And so basically what the Democrats, when I'm speaking Democrats, I'm talking Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at this point, they basically gave a bunch of college students and high school students raises to $17 an hour. And they also gave those raises to, other individuals as well who hold those positions. But once you start raising that money, now those fast food restaurants have to say, well, what is the cost per unit for each sandwich that I make, or for each order of fries? How much does it cost for me to make just one order or one meal, one Happy Meal? Let's just say, for example, they have to factor that in. And if they say, oh, well, it cost me $8 to make this Big Mac because now these employees are getting paid, I have to, use my calculations. And some people may say, I need to do a 50% markup. I need to do 100% markup. Typically, it's going to be 100% markup on your good just so you can turn a profit. So they have to mark the sandwiches up to $16, $18, and $20. That's the way economics works. Everyone has to make a profit. Just like when these people are flipping sneakers, which I heard sneaker flips on the decline. If you buy some sneakers for $80, you want to flip those for 160 or at least 140, 120. You don't want to buy them for 80 and then sell them for 100. You could do that and still make a decent profit, but you'd have to sell a lot of sneakers continuously just to kind of turn your profit, especially if you're renting a warehouse and you have other overhead costs. So this is what Democrats fail to understand. And so now a lot of people are wondering why inflation is running rampant, and you got Kamala Harris trying to blame it on big business. Like she's trying to blame the grocery stores for the cost of food. People, trust me, I have invested in food businesses. I'm actually invested in the food business right now. I have friends who used to operate a franchise. They got out of the franchise because it ultimately it wasn't sustainable. People don't understand the cost that goes into a food business. You have to have a lot of licenses. They feed you to death just to get a license annually to operate your food business. You have to meet a lot of code from, what is that, the Food and Drug Administration, or I think it's Food and Drug Administration. You have to meet a lot of code. The food business is really, in my personal opinion, it is probably the biggest headache of a business that you can get into. And when you're looking at a grocery store that sells you, just think about this one section, and I want y'all to think about this. What does the vegetable section have in common? All vegetables, because vegetables aren't really processed foods, right? When you're looking at onions, sweet potatoes, carrots, cucumbers, watermelons, apples, oranges, when you're looking at all of those goods, the difference between those goods and some canned peas and boxed up rice and refrigerated frozen dinners or whatever is those are highly perishable. Those goods go bad fast. You don't know how many times I've gone into a grocery store and I've gone up to management and I quietly did it and I said, well, I'm just letting y'all know that you have some molded food back there. A lot of stuff gets turned over, but these stores still have to make a profit. They have to take all of this stuff into consideration. So, and she's now trying to blame food. She's trying to blame grocery stores on the reason why you're paying high costs when those costs are already levied on them by the people that are supplying them the food. And they have to mark their food up to make a profit. And when you have unions involved, I'm telling you, unions are probably the worst thing for a business owner. Unions are a headache because they're constantly demanding things. And why do you think you see so many people trying not to have people unionize their businesses? And I'm not trying to say unions are good or bad, but I'm saying from a business perspective, a union can kill your business, or it can at least make your business, very expensive to operate. And then you have to pass these costs along to your customers. So looking at housing, what I'm trying to say too is when you look at how the Democrats raised the minimum wage, they raise it once again. The poor people in the middle, this is where I'm going. The poor people in the middle are always the people that get screwed. I've already told y'all that when you're in the middle, you're always going to lose out. That's a prime example of look at this. If you're light skinned, people are going to love you because you're light skinned. If you're dark skinned, people are going to love you. Ooh, he chocolate. Ooh, she chocolate. People will love you for your dark skin. Nobody loves you because you're brown skinned. Everybody looks at that and says, so what? Everybody's brown. That's what you're supposed to be. You don't get credit for being average. And when you're in the middle class, that is kind of like being average. You're in the middle. So when you have Kamala Harris and company looking and saying, oh, we need to give the the lower class people continuous raises. We need to give them stimulus checks. And I told y'all, I know somebody that hasn't worked for 5 years. And that person got a $5,000 stimulus check. And here I am paying $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in taxes every year. And they couldn't even say, let me give you some stimulus money. You deserve a stimulus. I don't get stimulus checks. I don't get tax breaks for my kids in college. I don't get anything. But yet I'm a struggling single parent. And I will say that. I'm a struggling single parent. And I think I make a darn good salary. But what I'm saying is this. The poor, they're going to continually get raises. And now they're able to buy houses working at McDonald's, working at Forever 21, working at wherever it is that they work at. And also not to mention too, let me add this in. You think about this. Every restaurant you go to a Chipotle line and see if they don't ask you for a tip when you get to the cashier. Everyone is tipping. Everyone has gone tip crazy, and they're really dinging consumers. They're really just asking. Think about this. You went to Chipotle. They did what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make your food. So why do you deserve a tip for making my food? Now, if I sit in Chipotle and somebody's going to run back and forth and fill up my cup and come serve me and come take my food away when I'm done with it and wipe my table down, then yeah, I'll give you a tip. But that doesn't really happen. Most people take their food to go. And you're seeing a tip nation go to a sit-down restaurant. Remember back in the day, tips used to be 10%. Giving a 10% tip used to be going above and beyond. Now we are up to 20 and 25% tips. And I think in some places they even do 30 or 33. It's something like that. These servers, the point that I'm making is this. If you think about this, you're going out to eat at a restaurant. The price of food has gone up significantly. So for one or two people going out to eat, that's already $100 or $200, $100 per meal. And you got to tip them 20% on top of at least a minimum of 20%. So they're getting $20 just to come over and fill up your glass once or twice and bring you your food. And they've earned $20. You think about how many tables that they're operating at the same time. One server is probably working one section. Let's just say there's 10 seats in that section that they're working. They're racking up damn near $2,000 in less than an hour. How many of y'all get paid $20 an hour? How many of y'all get paid 40? You think about this. When you sit down in a restaurant, you may be in there 30 minutes, maybe 45, 45, and they're getting paid these $20 abnormal tips in addition to the other monies that the restaurant is paying them. I'm basically saying that to say this is that when you look at those type of jobs, all of those individuals are now rich enough to buy houses. In the middle class, those individuals that are accountants, those individuals that are analysts, those individuals that are, like I said, sanitation engineers, these individuals who hold regular jobs that are middle class jobs, they don't get those type of raises. And in the upper class, they always make money. The upper class always finds opportunities, whether it's a recession or whether the economy is going fantastic. Their investments are always making money for them. And so the upper class doesn't really need help. They're doing just fine. And I'm not trying to say that they don't need help, but I'm just trying to say during good times or bad times, they are making money. I want y'all to do a Google to see. There's articles that always come out to say, especially during COVID, billionaires were tripling their money, doubling and tripling their money. People were coming, like if you were if you were worth $100 million or more, your net worth was just steadily increasing because it's like they just, and trust me, I'm not rich, so I don't know how they're doing it. I can't give you the granular details, but they always find opportunistic ways of making money. And it's probably more than less likely they're investing and holding on to their investments and, or using that time to buy low and then, watch those investments increase over time. These billionaires are making good money. The poor, they're being taken care of by the politicians. The middle class is the area where it's like they get no help. If the middle class tries to go out and buy a house, they're competing with those servers and waitresses and cashiers at retail stores and at restaurants. Then they're also competing with, and if they can outbid those individuals on a house, now they got to compete with the rich that are using this opportunity to buy single family homes as investment properties. I'm telling y'all, that's the people, that's also why these home prices have gotten out of hand, because a lot of investors are snatching them up. If you look at Jeff Bezos, he has a company called, what is the company called? Arrived. I think it's Arrived.com. If you go to Arrived.com, that's a Jeff Bezos backed company. I don't think Jeff Bezos owns the company, but it's a Jeff Bezos backed company. And what they do is they buy single family homes and they give individuals an opportunity to invest on their platform in the single family homes within their portfolio. And they're continually adding homes to their portfolio. And they're not the only ones doing this. Grant Cardone does it. I love Grant Cardone, by the way. Grant Cardone does it, but Grant Cardone he doesn't really deal with single family properties. He deals with multifamily properties, but you can invest on his platform through Cardone Capital. But he's snatching up a lot of like I said, the multifamily. I don't know if he deals in condos, but he definitely deals in apartments, and they're snatching those up. So for middle class individuals, they're competing with the poor and they're competing with the rich. And the poor are getting all kind of incentives, and then they're getting all kind of raises. In the middle class, they're getting nothing. They're staying paid what they're paid. And pretty soon the poor is catching up with the middle class. This is a fact. And so these are the things that Kamala Harris and company do not understand. And so when you look at it and you see the policies that she's putting forward, it's especially when you're looking from an economic perspective, from inflation, they're the ones who caused the inflation. And especially when you start paying off individual student loans. Y'all know I'm not a proponent of paying off student loans. When you start giving the public, they've given individuals money, like I told you, in the form of stimulus checks. They're paying off individual student loan debts. They're also giving low income earners raises, and there's no control on the taxes, on the tipping epidemic that's going on, and it's an epidemic. And also, we continually add to the deficit that we have, and we have to pay our American bills, and the gross domestic product is not, the GDP is not what it should be. And so you're creating this perfect storm for individuals, specifically in the middle class, to continually struggle. In the housing crisis, as Grant Cardone has said, they can't build these houses that fast. Number one, the builders have to be incentivized to build those houses. They have to be a demand for those houses. And right now, it's just not a demand, with inflation being the way that it is. When you have to consider food costs, when you have to consider utilities costs, when you have to consider just, whether you're going to get, the stability of your job and how much money you make, it's not feasible for them to just continually build 4 million homes. And basically, they would be building spec homes at that point, if you know what a spec home is. Basically, you're just speculating that someone is going to come around and buy this home. Builders don't work like that. Builders typically they build 3 or 4 models, and they say, pick which one you want. You go view those 3 or 4 models. And then if you like one of the models, then you say, I want this one, but I want to alter this. Now you go in with your, you go in and you choose whatever options you want. I want hardwoods, I want this, that, or the third. They don't build your house until you commit and put a down payment to say, I want this type of house, and build it on lot 36 or build it on lot 45. You pick your plot and you build the house. That's what they do. They're not just going to build 4 million homes and hope that somebody comes along and buys them. It's just not going to happen. So I just wanted to put this video out there and just kind of give you something to think about. We have someone that's probably going to win. Unfortunately, this individual is probably going to win. From what I've been hearing, I didn't watch the debate or anything, but I'm seeing what's going on, and it seems like it's set up for this person to, just waltz into the White House because they're already there. And I don't think economically it's going to work out specifically for the middle class. Trust me, the rich are always going to be okay. The rich have enough resources. When I say resources, they have a legal team. They have a legal team and a financial team that's always going to position them to take advantage of the law and whatever loopholes are there. So they're always going to be okay. And obviously, the Democrats, are going to take care of the poor, and to help take care of the poor, they're going to have the middle class supplement. They're going to say, you rich people that make $100,000, you need to slide some of your money over to the poor people because they need it. And that's just going to make you people a lot poorer. Trust me, I've been feeling it for decades. I shouldn't say for decades. I've been feeling it for years. When I was married, it really didn't bother me because, the money that I made and the money that she made, when you come together, you have a nice chunk of change, 400 plus thousand, and you're like, okay, this is fantastic. And you're only paying for one house. You're only paying for, you're paying for one utility bill. But now when you start separating and you're a single person living and still operating, but still having to have enough space for your kids, still having to support your kids, it becomes very difficult. So I just wanted to kind of put this out there. If you have any comments on it, drop some comments in the comment section. Also hit the like and subscribe. Once again, this is the Political Brown Kid. I'm out.